Please have mercy on this poor, fragile woman, my husband implored, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. I glanced at Eric, torn between laughing and yelling. Fragile, his mother, who always managed to get her way, was far from helpless. Still, I relented. At the time, I had no idea that this choice would eventually tear my marriage apart. My name is Amanda, and my husband Eric is 2 years younger than me. His reckless nature often causes me stress. We first met when I was 27, at a matchmaking event, both searching for a lifelong partner. Before Eric, I had dated men who either weren't serious about marriage or were financially unstable, but Eric was different. While we were dating, he was always considerate, carrying my bags, treating me to meals, and going out of his way to be thoughtful. Later, I realized this wasn't special treatment just for me. He acted the same way toward his younger sister, Diana. I assumed it was simply his nature, but after we married, his priorities shifted, and it became evident that his kindness wasn't exclusive to me. Eric's family consisted of his mother, his father, who was divorced from her, and Diana. After a heated argument a few years ago, his parents separated, leaving his mother to live alone. Since then, she often visited our apartment, constantly seeking Eric's help. One day, she arrived looking distressed. "I'm struggling to get by. Your father abandoned me, and I have no idea how to manage on my own. Please, Eric, come home. How can I survive like this?" she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. Moved by her sorrow, Eric repeatedly asked me, "What if we moved into my mother's house?" His mother had no stable income, and despite receiving some divorce compensation, found it difficult to manage expenses and maintain the house. Back when Eric lived with her, things were fine, but after he moved in with me, she was left completely alone. Day after day, my husband begged, "There's so much space in my mom's house, and I won't expect you to do all the housework. Wouldn't you consider moving in?" His pleas became even more dramatic. "Amanda, think of this poor, frail woman, please, let's help her." Hearing him describe her as frail caught me off guard, but I couldn't ignore her struggles. Guilt weighed on me, and eventually, I agreed. When I gave in, Eric and his mother rejoiced, though I tried to convince myself that things would be fine. I had secretly hoped to spend our early married days alone with my husband. Instead, we ended up under his mother's roof. Eric and I both worked, but truthfully, he wasn't particularly great at his job. His real passion lay in crafting the perfect burger. His dream was to open a burger shop one day. To gain experience, he worked as an apprentice at a restaurant, which consumed most of his time. Though I respected his dedication, it meant he was rarely home. He promised this was only temporary and even wrote a promissory note vowing to repay me once his business took off. During the first month of living with his mother, she seemed grateful for our presence, but once our work schedules became demanding, she began treating the house as if it were solely hers and started speaking to me harshly. "Amanda, don't throw plastic bottles in that bin. Have you been living under a rock? It's shocking that you can't even separate trash properly. What did your parents teach you?" she scolded. I could only respond with a quiet, "I'm sorry," but the truth was, I wasn't clueless about sorting garbage. I just wasn't familiar with her system. When we first moved in, I had asked about waste disposal, and she had reassured me, "Don't worry, I'll handle the sorting later." Yet every time I mistakenly placed a bottle in the wrong bin, she berated me, while completely ignoring when Eric did the same. Despite following her rules on trash collection days, the criticism never stopped. It felt less like guidance and more like intentional nitpicking. She also started expecting me to do all the housework, including cooking lunch, even though I had a full-time job. When I told her, "That's just not possible," she snapped, "Don't say impossible. A daughter-in-law must do whatever she's asked." I was stunned. Hadn't she begged us to move in? It dawned on me, maybe she had never wanted me there. She likely only wanted Eric's financial support, and I was nothing more than an inconvenient addition. While I struggled with her hostility, my company introduced a remote work option. Hoping to ease tensions, I chose to work from home, thinking I could help with chores and prepare the lunches she wanted. But no matter how much I did, her attitude never changed. If anything, it got worse. "If only my daughter-in-law weren't here, the house would feel so much more peaceful," she muttered one day, her words cut deep. Running the household in that environment became unbearable. Eric, 41, was incredibly messy. He never sorted his laundry or picked up after himself. Every day, I had to gather his clothes from his room, and yet he had the audacity to complain. "Where are my favorite socks?" he asked one morning. "They're still drying," I replied. "But I wanted to wear them today." "You're too slow with the laundry. You need to do better. I was speechless. He refused to do his own laundry but still blamed me. Before I could respond, his mother chimed in. That's right. Amanda is home all day. Why can't she handle all the housework properly? Their words stung. No matter how much I did, they belittled my efforts. But the final blow came when my mother-in-law and Eric made an offhand comment. Now that Diana is coming home, it'll be embarrassing to have such a useless daughter-in-law around. What will she think? His mother muttered. Eric chuckled. Diana has probably matured a lot. When she sees how clumsy my wife is, she'll definitely laugh at me. That was the first time I had even heard that Diana was moving back in. Nobody had bothered to tell me. Diana, Eric's younger sister, had been married for 2 years and lived with her husband, though we had barely interacted. From their remarks, I gathered she didn't think much of me either. The day she arrived, my mother-in-law was ecstatic. Diana strolled in, dropped her bags, and collapsed onto the living room couch with a sigh. Ah, there's nothing like being home, she declared. I offered her a drink, trying to be polite. She glanced at me with confusion. Who is this person? She acted like she had no idea who I was, even though she had attended my wedding. Before I could respond, my mother-in-law jumped in. Diana, this is Eric's wife, she said with a sneer. She's terrible at housework, always tense, and completely useless. She used to work, but now she just lazes around all day. I was stunned. I hadn't quit my job. I had simply switched to remote work to accommodate the household's needs. Despite explaining this multiple times, both Eric and his mother seemed to act as if they had never heard it. Diana, taking her mother's words at face value, scoffed. Oh, so you're housing an unemployed freeloader? Why even keep her around? Then, laughing cruelly, she added, maybe she'll understand real hardship when she experiences it firsthand. My mother-in-law chuckled in agreement. Exactly. Then she turned to me with an announcement that left me speechless. Amanda, listen carefully. Diana is pregnant and will be staying here to have her baby. I was blindsided. No one had mentioned Diana's pregnancy, let alone the fact that she planned to move in. This meant more financial strain, yet I had been left completely out of the loop. And then came the final blow. Since Diana is moving back, we have no need for an unemployed daughter-in-law, my mother-in-law declared. Pack your things and leave before she settles in, and if you don't, I'll throw your stuff out myself. I stared at her in disbelief. Are you serious? A part of me actually felt relieved. Anything was better than enduring daily humiliation in this house. I figured that without me, they would struggle financially, but my mother-in-law was too self-absorbed to realize that. We'll be just fine without you, she said smugly. Fine, I replied. I'm leaving. Eric, the man who had once seemed so kind and attentive when we were dating, stood by silently. The moment we moved in with his mother, all his affection had disappeared. Now it was clear his real priority had always been his mother and sister. I had only ever been a financial safety net, supporting his dreams while he let me be treated like a servant. Without wasting any time, I made an important phone call. I'm divorcing Eric, I said. From now on, please collect rent from him or his mother. When the person on the other end asked what happened, I explained how I had been kicked out to make space for Diana. They apologized and assured me they would handle it. After that, I booked a hotel and started searching for my own place. Then the panicked phone calls began. What do you mean you want a divorce? Eric demanded. And what's this about repaying money? I thought we were fine. Fine? I repeated incredulously. You threw me out for your sister's comfort, and you don't see the problem? Kicked you out? That's not true. You left so Diana wouldn't be stressed. Clearly, his mother and sister had twisted the story in his head. In reality, they had threatened to throw my belongings onto the street if I didn't leave immediately. Then I asked, by the way, did your father stop by? Eric hesitated. Yeah, he showed up talking about rent, but we own the house, right? There's no rent to pay. I nearly screamed. Are you serious? When your parents divorced, your dad kept the house, but your mother refused to move out. The agreement was that she'd pay $2,000 a month in rent. That's how it's always been. He was stunned. But I never paid rent because you were busy with your burger apprenticeship and barely earning anything, I shot back. I was the one paying $2,000 every month. I sent the money to your mother, and she paid from her account. I explained all of this to you when we moved in. His mother had conveniently forgotten that little detail. Now that I had cut them off, his father had come to collect what was owed. You and your mother have to pay now, I said. Eric was shaken, but I felt nothing. He had spent so much time taking me for granted that I no longer cared about his struggles. Also, I added, your father has the divorce papers. And don't forget there's still the money you owe me. His voice tightened. Wait, what promissory note? I sighed. How could he be so oblivious? The one you signed. I reminded him. You told me, I'm going to focus on becoming a burger shop owner, so you handle the finances for now. I promise to pay you back later. Those were your words. There was a long silence. Oh, did I really say that? He murmured. Yes, I said coldly, and now I'm done. I can't wait around forever for your dream to magically happen. I've been covering $2,000 in rent and living expenses for 3 people, and I'm finished. Desperate, he pleaded, please don't leave me, you're the only one I have. I shook my head. I don't need a husband who won't pay bills, won't share housework, and lets his family treat me like garbage. If you won't sign the papers, I'll let the lawyers handle it. And with that, I hung up. From what I heard later, Eric finally snapped at his mother and Diana for the first time in his life. Why would you do this? He raged. Amanda was the only reason we could afford to live here. Now I'm drowning in debt, and my dream is over. His mother and sister, who had never been held accountable before, were completely shocked. Diana burst into tears, and their mother stood there speechless. Meanwhile, Eric's father gave them an ultimatum. If you can't pay, get out by the end of the month, he declared. If you're still here after that, I'm calling the police. Panic set in. Diana's husband came to pick her up, but after hearing the full story, he scolded her for how shamefully she had behaved. Eric and his mother, now left with nothing, were forced to move into a tiny, run-down apartment to make ends meet. Eric abandoned his burger apprenticeship and took on 2 part-time jobs to pay off his debt to me. His mother had no choice but to start working multiple jobs as well. As for me, I felt nothing but relief. They had used me for so long without an ounce of gratitude. Now, they were finally facing the consequences of their actions. With that toxic household behind me, I knew one thing for sure, my future had never looked brighter. And that, my friends, is the end of this story. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Stay tuned.